For homework question 2.43, we're asked to calculate how many moles are there in 4.400 e to the 1 grams of chlorine atoms. And I think there are a few things that are complicating this problem for many people. And that they're saying chlorine atoms. And so by throwing the word atoms in there, I think that's confusing people. But the only reason they're throwing in chlorine atoms is that because chlorine is more commonly found as a diatomic molecule, Cl2. So they're telling you these are individual chlorine atoms. So the next thing we need to know is we need to look up the atomic weight of chlorine. And if we go to the periodic table and look up the atomic weight of chlorine, we will see that it's 35.45 AMU. And so that means, remember, we can go directly from AMU to grams, and that's the amount we need to have 1 mole of this sample. So that means if I have 35.45 grams of chlorine, right, I should have 1 mole of chlorine. So now we have our conversion factor. We have the information required to convert grams of chlorine into moles of chlorine. To set that calculation up, I've got 4.400 e to the 1, so essentially 44 grams of chlorine, and I know for every 35.45 grams of chlorine, I would have 1 mole of chlorine, right? We want to multiply by something that cancels out grams and leaves us with units of mole. Well, our conversion factor is that the weight of chlorine is 35.45 grams per 1 mole of chlorine. That's what allows us to convert from grams to moles. So we're going to divide 44 by 35.45 to see that we get approximately 1.24118 moles of chlorine. Right, and if you had to guess before even doing the calculation, you would guess I had a little bit more than 1 mole of chlorine because 1 mole of chlorine should weigh 35.45 grams. I have 44 grams. So I have more than 1 mole. Now for our significant figures, right? We've got 4 significant figures right here in the weight that we measured. So I should report the answer to 4 significant figures, which means I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. I would drop everything after that 1. So my answer would become 1.241 moles of chlorine, and in scientific notation 1.241 e to the 0 moles of chlorine. So the big thing we needed there was our conversion factor. How do we go from moles to grams? We get this information from the periodic table, right? We went and looked up the weight of chlorine as 35.45 AMU, and that's what allowed us to convert from grams to moles of chlorine.